Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Panic Meet Peace podcast. I'm your host, Ashanti, and it's going to be a good one today, you guys. I'm telling you my story, why I did not choose therapy to overcome chronic anxiety, and what I did instead. And I'm not just going to tell you my story, I'm also going to give you the 4 steps that it takes to do this. But before we get into it, let me just put this disclaimer out there that I am not a medical advisor. I'm not a therapist, and I don't have any kind of background in that area. I am simply a minister of the gospel, and I am also just a person giving my testimony. So if you think that you need therapy, please, by all means, pray about it and go for it. Do whatever is best for you. But if you want to know how I did it and what I did, then stay tuned. Can't wait to dive in with you. Let's go. Are you tired of struggling with anxiety? Do you find yourself constantly worrying, stressing, and overthinking everything in your life? Do you desire to be free in your own mind again? Welcome to the Panic Meet Peace podcast. I am your host, Ashanti, and I teach believers like you how to find peace over anxiety through faith. In this podcast, we discuss strategies for managing anxiety and stress using biblical teachings and faith-based techniques. My special guests and I share our personal experiences, advice, and perspectives to help you ditch the panic attacks and guide you from fear to faith. God has already promised you the peace that passes all understanding, and I am more than happy to introduce you to that peace through today's episode. Are you ready? Without further ado, Panic, Meet Peace. Hey there, guys and gals. This is Ashanti, and I just want to let you know that this Valentine's Day, you can give yourself the best gift ever, which is the gift of ending self-sabotage. I have created a guide based on the #1 most downloaded episode last year of this podcast, which was how to stop self-sabotaging thoughts. I've created a free guide for you. It is linked below in the show notes. It is absolutely free. And if you're ready to take control of your thoughts, you need to download it. Make sure you check out the link in the show notes. And thank you guys so much for the downloads on that episode. We reached almost 200 downloads on that one episode alone. So thank you so much for the support. If you want to listen to it, it's linked below. Get your guide today. Let's end the self-sabotage and start stepping into our true power again. Okay, you guys, let's jump right back in here and have a real conversation. I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. After COVID, when therapy and counseling and working with counselors and all that took off, I honestly got turned off by it. I felt like there's no way there's that many people in the world who can help you with your life. I personally was just a critic already of therapy, but I decided to give it a try once. And I found an affordable one. I used it and I was completely disappointed. I went in with high hopes. I'm not even going to lie to you. I went into this these therapy sessions with high hopes. I had high expectations, and I think maybe I was distorted because I thought about what it was like in the movies when you have therapy. It was still during the time of COVID, so of course it was virtual, but still, the experience I thought would be helpful. And it really wasn't. I felt like I was just kind of talking to some random person about what I was dealing with, and they didn't quite understand. And they gave me a bunch of blanket answers that probably have been used and helped people in the past. And it just didn't help me. So then when the opportunity came back again, or when I realized that I needed more help and that I needed to get over anxiety because it was starting to get to the point where I was about to be crippled by it. I think I probably already had passed that point, actually. But it wasn't to the point where I couldn't do anything. It was just so difficult to think. It was hard to enjoy life. It was hard to be present for my children, for my marriage. I struggled with my own inner thoughts so much of the time, and I could be just doing absolutely nothing. There was one time I was sitting on the couch watching TV. What I was watching was absolutely innocent. I think it was like a Tom and Jerry cartoon or something. And I just started panicking, had this huge panic attack for no reason at all. And it was getting out of control. I was losing the battle to anxiety. So I thought about therapy again. Unfortunately, though, during this time of my life, I did not have a job. And my husband was the only one working and making any money for us. So there was no extra income for me to even afford the cheap therapy. So I'm going to be honest with you, I could not afford it. Not even the one that was like basically almost free. I couldn't afford that one. I had already been burned by the last experience, and I was already a critic within myself. Like, I don't think that I can get the help I need by just talking to someone about it. Plus, just throwing this in there, all of the advertising for therapy was geared toward helping me cope with anxiety and not actually take control back from it and get over it. They were presenting it in a way that anxiety is not a choice, that anxiety is going to stick with you for the rest of your life and you don't have any power over that, and that you should just settle with having to depend on someone else to help you get through it for the rest of your life. Now, maybe, and like I said, you guys, if this is not the episode for you, I don't mind. You know what I mean? I'm here to give my story and share how I feel about it. So if you have experienced therapy and you thought it was awesome and it was helpful to you and it was affordable for you and all of that, great. I trust me, I said it in the beginning, I am not here to tell you not to do therapy. I'm here to tell you what I did instead, share that with you, give you that option so that if you can't afford it, if you don't want to depend on it, if you're like me and you're kind of a critic of it and you want to just do things another way, I want to help you with that as well. So do what is best for you. Again, I'll say it again, do what is best for you. But this is my story and this is how I overcame it. Okay. So I'd been dealing with anxiety now at this time in my life for about 4 years. And this is the kind of anxiety that doesn't go away. Now, I was always an anxious person, just in general, I was anxious about everything anyway. But this was a 4 consecutive years of anxiety that did not leave. It was absolutely present with me 100% of the time. I could not sleep well. I could not be present. I feel like I missed 4 years of my life. And every time Apple brings up a memory from those 4 years, I'm like, that happened. It's the sad truth, but it's true, you guys. Anxiety robbed me of so much of my life. And I just had no idea that that's what it was in the first place. And then when I figured it out, I had no idea how to handle it. And so therapy wasn't the answer for me. I tried it once, didn't like it, and here I was at this crossing point in my life where I made the decision within myself that I could not live my life this way and that I wouldn't. There was just this moment in time where my spirit awakened by the grace of God, and this fire lit inside of me and said, I am not meant to live my life like this. I am not meant to live life in fear and constantly worrying about everything, things that aren't even happening, things that couldn't happen if they tried, things that have happened to other people that I don't want to happen to me. I was consumed. And I knew being a woman of God, being in church my whole life, being a minister, still preaching throughout all of this, I knew that there was a better way. So, came to a point where I decided that I was going to partner with God instead. I went to him privately in my own vehicle because, you're not always at the corner, at the foot of your bed. You're wherever you are when you need God. And I happened to be in my car and I prayed and asked him what I could do for him. And he told me to podcast. And then I told him in the same day, I said, I can't do this by myself. I want to get over anxiety. I want to be completely free of this thing, but I can't do this alone and I need your help. And so, being the wonderful, amazing God that he is, he jumped in immediately. He took my hand and he led me out of fear and back into faith, back into normalcy, where I could just wake up and get started in the day and not have to do 100 things to calm myself down. Guys, I would wake up, start the day on 100, full of anxiety, dealing with my thoughts as soon as my eyes opened. And in less than 90 days. I don't even think it was 90. I think it was less than that. I think it was like 60 days. I'm trying to put the timeline in. I remember the day that I prayed this prayer, and that was January 9th because it was my brother's birthday. But I honestly I didn't count how many days it took for me to get completely over it. It feels like it probably left me maybe about 60 days later. So let's just go with less than 90 days. That's a good covering time period. But for dealing with anxiety my whole life and then chronic anxiety for 4 years to get over it in 90 days, that sounds almost impossible. But that is why I partnered with God. His word says that with him, all things are possible. All things are possible with God. And that was the words that Jesus said directly to his disciples. So I tested it. I put it to the test for you. And I can tell you right now, without a shadow of doubt in my mind, that it was because of God that I was able to overcome anxiety. Now, it took me actively working with him to get through this thing. I didn't come to God, I may have been looking for a miracle when I asked him for it, but then I realized maybe this isn't a time to be a miracle. Maybe it's a time to put some work in, to actually put my faith in action and do something about it. So when I say I partner with God, I really mean I partnered with him. He did his part, I did my part, and that's that. Like, that's how we got to this point, okay? So let's just jump into what that looked like for me and how you can apply this to your own life. There were 4 things that took place in this 90-day period that really helped me to shift from fear to faith. And the first thing that happened was I had to get real about what I actually believe God for. Why do I believe in God? What do I believe in God about? What is it about the Word of God that I trust? Why am I choosing this? I had to get very real with myself and not just depend on those cliches that I had in my back pocket, pulling them out. I had to actually decide where I would stand in my faith. And then when I decided that I was going to stand with Jesus, because all of the evidence of my past in my life with him in it, I just proved to myself that he was real. And I proved to myself that he hears me. And I proved to myself that he has heard me before. So I decided to stand in that. And what I did there was I asked myself, God, I've told this story a few times throughout the episodes. And I think there's one in particular, my anxiety story. You can go back and find it if you want to, where I talk about this again. But I was in the shower one day and I was shaving my legs and I was praying against all of the things that I was afraid of. I was praying against heart attacks. I was praying against my children dying. I was praying against all of the things I was afraid of. And in the middle of my prayer, this is after I asked God to partner with me on this. In the middle of my prayer, God spoke to me and he said, "But what are you believing me for?" I'm sorry, actually, he said, "Pray for what you are believing for, Ashanti." And I snapped up from shaving my legs. No, I did not cut myself. And I was like, wait a minute. This whole time, I have been using my prayers to battle fear, to ask God to protect me from everything I was afraid of. It was like a light went off, you guys. How have I been doing this? So I took some inventory. I asked myself, what have I been praying for lately? What am I thinking about? And all I could think about were the things that I was the most afraid of. And so then I asked myself, well, what do I believe God for? Well, I believe God that I'm going to get through this situation no matter what. I believe God that he's going to protect my children. I believe that God is going to provide for my family even though I'm not working. I believe that I'm going to overcome everything that I've approached. I believe that I'm going to have a good and expected end. I believe that everything that is pertaining to life and godliness is in his word. I started to just go through all of the things that I actually believed, and I started choosing to pray for what I believed for, as well as think that. So if you're in this place right now, I want to ask you, what have you been praying for lately? Are your prayers being fueled by your fears? Are they being fueled by your faith? What do you want to happen in your life instead? Because that's where my prayers shifted. They shifted from what I was afraid would happen to what I wanted to happen. And how can you? This is about you. We all know my story. I've told it 100 times, but this is your story now. So, how can you shift your prayers from fear to faith? How can you shift your thoughts from fear to faith? And that leads me into step number 2. The next thing that God had me do was focus on what I believed over what I feared. Now, this works hand in hand with the next thing, but I want to kind of dwell on this for a second. I figured out that since I am in control of my own thoughts, let's be real, because anxiety can offer us something, but I don't have to take what it's offering. I can choose something else. So when I figured out that I am in control of my own thoughts, I decided that I was going to have to take that control and put it toward thinking about what I hope for, thinking about what is true, what is good, etc. Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 actually walks us through exactly that. Oh, I'm sorry. Verse 8. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatever is honest, whatever is just, whatever is pure. And notice how he says whatever before each word. That's because he's like, I don't care what you choose as long as it's good, as long as it's pure, as long as it's just. If it has any virtue, any goodness, any value, and if it is anything of praise, think on these things. The Word of God gives us the tools that we need to battle anxiety and to win the war in our minds, but we have to be the ones to apply those things directly to our faith. We have to be the ones to step into here and say, okay, I'm going to think about what is true today. I know what fear is saying to me. I know that if I worry about it, it's going to satisfy my flesh, but I choose not to worry right now. I choose to be at peace. I choose to think about what is good. So I have a question for you. What are you thinking about most of the time? And these questions are not to give you shame or condemnation, so please don't receive them in that way. These questions are to prompt you to begin taking the steps that you need to take so that you can live in peace as well. The Panic Meet Peace podcast is for real about being from panic to peace, okay? So I want you to think about these questions as I ask them, because you're going to be applying these steps to your own life as well. What are you thinking about most of the time? Are they good? Are they scary? Are they happy? Are they sad? And this is a key question. What would you rather think about? What would you rather think about? Do you want to continue thinking about what you're afraid of? Do you want to continue thinking about what depresses you or the pain that you've experienced in your life? What would you rather think about? And last question for you, how are you going to start focusing on those things instead? How are you going to shift your thoughts from what you have been thinking about to what you're going to think about? The mind is so cool in a physical sense. God is amazing at everything that he does. And one of the things that he did for us is that he gave us a mind that works in patterns. And so if you decide that you're going to think good thoughts, you can establish that new pattern in your mind. And as long as you continue the habit of feeding that new pattern, as you create that new pattern of thinking, the old one dies off. And you don't continue to go back to it because your mind is already on a new frequency, a new wavelength. So it's not going to go back to the old one unless you choose it. This is all science. You can look it up if you want to. But this is proving the power of God's word here. That whatever we set our mind to, whatever we think about, that is what we will be. So that's why I'm asking you these questions, so that you can begin to set those new patterns in your mind as well. The third thing that God had me do after I had to establish what I believe and then focus on it, I had to set up some self-preservation boundaries. Let me tell you. I was so weak, you guys. I was so available for all of anxiety's plans, all the panic attacks, all the sleepless nights, all of the fearful dodging of things that weren't even there. I was absolutely open to those things. And as weak as I was in those moments, I knew that I had to set up a defense. And as God was walking me through this, He started to show me the areas in my life where I was opening myself up to feed those fears. Number one thing, hands down, was reading the news. I could not process the news without absorbing it. You know how, like, you're supposed to just watch the news and you know what's going on in the world, but it's not, contaminating you? I didn't have that power. And every time I sat down to read the news, because I couldn't watch it, but if I read the news, I felt like I was in more control. But even then, I was a mess. Social media was the next thing. I was just allowing whatever the algorithm gave me that day to be the thing that I absorbed. I was careless. I was just allowing all of this stuff that I was literally spiritually eating to be the thing that I fed myself on. And when I realized that I had a lot of open doors and that if I was going to build my strength up so that I could come back to these things without being consumed by them, I knew I had to set those boundaries. So I replaced them. I stopped reading the news. I unsubscribed from my newsletters. I deactivated all of my social media accounts. I stepped away from everything that was causing me to be afraid. This might sound like it's a running away, like I don't want to run away from it. And I wasn't running away. I was simply giving myself the time and the space to build my strength, to fuel my faith instead, so that when I wanted to, I could go back on my own terms. I could go back and not be afraid of what I was reading, but instead be empowered to pray for it. I could be fueling my faith and saying, God, I thank you for protecting those people and helping them in what they're going through. Let your glory be seen in all of this. Rather than taking it and going, God, I'm so scared that could happen to me. Please don't ever let that happen to me. That's not faith. That's fear. So set those boundaries for yourself. And here are some questions to help you start that. What are some areas or open doors that you have that feed your anxiety? And I know as soon as I ask that question, you're like, I know exactly what I can do. And let's say one of those things is a toxic relationship. I had to stop talking to some people that I love dearly for a long time to also set that boundary. Not make them set the boundary and make them abide by those boundaries. I simply set a boundary for myself where I said, if I see this person or if I talk to this person, it will be on this situation. And if things start to get out of control, I'm leaving that conversation or I'm leaving that place where that person is. Because let's face it, there are some people in the world who have not healed, who have not dealt with the pain that they're dealing with, or who are just as anxious as you are. And when the two of you get in the same room, it can be catastrophic. It can be really toxic. That's not their fault. That's not your fault, but it is in your control. So if it is a toxic relationship, do what is best for you. You don't even have to tell them. I didn't tell anybody that I stopped talking to on a regular basis. I didn't tell them what I was doing. I just did it because I wanted to get myself to the point where I am the one who has the thermostat for myself, that I'm not giving the temperature control of my own thoughts and my own emotions to anyone else but God. So what are some open doors that you have that are feeding anxiety, and what can you do instead to feed your faith? How can you replace that thing like scrolling on social media? And what should you replace it with? Things that feed your faith. So instead of scrolling on social media, I downloaded the YouVersion Bible app and I would do the plans that were in the app. I would spend that time studying. I adopted new hobbies that required me to use my hands, like gardening, baking, which both of those things were really hard at first. But I kept at it, and now I'm so thankful that I did because I have something I can do for myself to give myself that freedom and that time and that space to think and just be present with God and in nature. So I put my hands to work. I did things that were improving my life and my family. I included exercise. I included all of the things, which leads us into step number 4. I started taking action on what I believed. I started putting my faith into works. I started spending time outdoors. I love being outside. I loved it all the time when I was a kid. And since I moved to the city, I realized that I kind of became a couch potato, I guess you could say. And I never really went outside. I was always in at work, or I was in my car, or I was inside my house. And I decided to just start going outside, getting some exercise out, gardening. And then I decided to change my diet. So, what are some activities you can do to build your faith and show your faith? Because if you say that you believe God can change your life and free you from anxiety, but you don't take any steps to actually put that faith into works, if you don't take the steps to do the things that just basic therapists would tell you to do, they'll tell you to go exercise. They'll tell you to change your diet. They'll tell you to stop drinking alcohol. They'll tell you to skip the caffeine. They'll tell you to put the sugar down. Like, they'll tell you to do these things. If the therapists are telling you to do these things and your faith is telling you to do these things and you're not doing it, then you really don't have faith. The Bible says that faith without works is dead, which means if you say that you have faith, but you're not willing to do anything to prove it or to put it into action, then you're not actually saying that you have faith. You're just talking out your head, as the old folks would say. So, what are some activities you can do to build your faith and show your faith and fuel your faith? This is exactly what I did. And this is exactly how God has led me and continues to lead me through life. And I can thankfully say that every morning I wake up, my life is not consumed by anxiety anymore. By the grace of God, I am doing the things that I prayed I could do. I'm sitting in a promise in a prayer that I asked God for right now. I am sitting in a prayer that I prayed to God years ago. And man, when I look back and I think about all of the struggles I had with anxiety, all I can do is give God the glory because there's no way I would have gotten over that if it hadn't been for him. And that's my story. That's how I avoided going to not avoided it, but that's why I chose to go with God rather than therapy. I was ready to be through with this thing. And I knew that if I could get to the next better part of my life, I had to do it with God. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I know today's episode was a little bit longer than normal, but I wanted to give you all the information that God has given me and really just break it down for you step by step so you could see how God worked in my life and how he can work in yours as well. And I pray that this episode really helps you. I pray that you heard something that really gave you a different perspective today. And if you did, please share this episode with a friend. Send it to someone that you know would love to listen to it. Tell the world about it. Leave a review. That's really important because as you leave reviews, then Apple sees them and then Apple will promote the episode as well. Thank you so much for joining me again. And I can't wait to see you again next week. God bless.